Sammy, my boy, what's up? First of all, I just want to say that everybody that's watching this and been watching our videos back and forth, even though this is the only second video I made, I don't hate on you. I don't hate you personally or anything like that. I'm not taking anything personally. Just some of the shit you say is pretty fucking retarded, at least to me. Um, just reading some of your comments real quick before posting this. First of all, I never said that being white was better. Besides, you're the one who pulled the race card first by saying you were a poor Mexican. Sorry. Teenage angst, like put in some of your comments. Did I have some? Not really. I had some cool ass parents. I was doing well in school. Oh, by the way, a lot of the stuff that I said that I had, as far as Super Nintendo, Genesis, I even had the add-ons, the games, and everything else. I paid for that all myself by either, part-time job once I turned 16, or by doing things around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, washing cars, stuff like that, just to get some extra cash. Most of the stuff I paid for by myself. Some of the stuff, of course, my parents did. It's like the 3DO. I believe it was when I finally bought it. It was what, 95, 96, somewhere in there. They had dropped the price down to like $400. I sold a bunch of old video game stuff in order to buy it, as well as save some money myself. So yeah, I didn't hate my childhood years. My teen years were pretty awesome. I'm not saying I was like, super popular or anything like that. But, I had a good amount of friends, got along well with everybody, got along well with my teachers, had a good deal. Yeah, I did grow up in an upper middle class, white family, white neighborhood. I'm not saying that's better. I'm just, saying I was that. And of course, in some of the cases, I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to respond to in here. If I miss some, I apologize, because I probably will. Let's see. So what are your comments about the MSRP? First of all, of course, I'm sure, as you know, but for those of you out there who don't know, MSRP just stands for Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price, which is the price a manufacturer, would like you to sell the game for, but you're not bound by that. He says $120 for Final Fantasy 6 or 3, however you want to call it. I just actually went to a website after you found that called like Final Anime or Fantasy Anime, something like that, that, claimed that it was only $80 when it was first out. I remember paying brand new, it may have been Walmart, I don't recall where exactly, but it was, no more than $60. Point is, I guess we're talking two different things when we're talking cost of games. I'm talking like big name games on day one when they come out, not, the 500 million iPhone or Android games that only cost 99 cents that are full games. They're fun to play, like Angry Birds and stuff like that. But, they don't have as big of a budget, and they're not going to cost as much. A lot of stuff you say, like even on Xbox Live Arcade, the Nintendo Virtual Console and all that, a lot of them have older classic games on there, so of course they're going to be cheaper. A 20-year-old game, unless it's something like what, I think Earthbound, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Secret of Mana, that if you find somebody on eBay that has one sealed in box, selling for a couple $100, that's besides the point. But games generally do tend to come down in price as you go. Now, another thing too that you kind of didn't hear right on, or maybe I didn't, enunciate well enough, is that day one patches and DLC, or at least with a DLC, if I'm not mistaken, I said it's not really a huge thing. Because a lot of times you get it for free, like with Mass Effect 3. Granted, you had to get the $69 edition, but you got it for free. There's something that's free on First Aid. That's fine. I'm not necessarily against that. But the thing back in the day was, they hid stuff on the carts, but, you had to unlock things or you had to put in codes in order to get it. So, and on top of that, games had to be as near perfect as they could be when they were released, because they didn't have the option of doing the patches later on, which a lot of companies nowadays will fall back on in order to hit a date. They could say, well, you know what, this isn't as great where we want it to be, but we need to release it because we're losing money on it. We'll just release a patch later. It's becoming more and more commonplace. Wow, I'm jumping all over the place here, so apologize about that. I'm still trying to put everything down. Basically, what I got from your video is that, you grew up poor and you were just like those, whiny looking goth kids in high school that were always, oh, woe is us, the world sucks, life sucks, blah, blah. Once again, junior high, high school, I really had no angst except for the general, once again, hey, my parents pissed me off or they did something stupid or they grounded me for whatever reason. But, it wasn't anything major. I turned out fine. Point is, though, is that not everybody had the same experience that you did. And I know you said in another comment that this is why you always respond, but this is more so for other people watching this video. not everybody had your same experience. Not everybody had your same, oh, junior high, 13, 14 sucks, high school sucks, I'm poor. Not everybody had that. So you can't assume that everybody did. I'm not assuming everybody had my upbringing either. I know people that were a lot better off than what my family was. I knew people that were better off, or excuse me, worse off than what I was. As far as those services you were talking about, I probably didn't have. I had Sega Channel. I had the Sega Channel. I didn't have it for the Genesis, but I did get the X Band for the Super NES, and it was shitty. I think I can only remember a handful of good matches of Street Fighter on the thing. And as far as Capcom releasing yearly deals then like they do now, yeah, they did, but they got progressively cheaper. Once again, day one, day and date, Street Fighter 2, the original, the World Warrior, which was released in '92, I believe. I paid before tax. This was at EB Games, or when they fully called Electronics Boutique. It was $79.99. So yeah, that was pretty expensive. I remember actually Legend of Zelda was about $59. Link to the Past, but of course, down the line once they hit the greatest sales deal of $1 million, they dropped in price. I didn't mention anything about the N64 as far as the cost on carts there because I was trying to stick just to the 16-bit era, which was what considered fourth generation, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, this is kind of weird. I'm actually looking at a deal filming myself, so my eyes will be looking at you directly than going out to the side, but whatever. So, yeah, and plus, you didn't know me then, you didn't know what I have. It's kind of hard for you to say, well, you didn't have this, blah, blah. I did, son. As far as age, age does play a factor because you're basically saying that this gen is the best because it is most current and because of all the things you can get with it. Even though a lot of things you can get with the services now, they were around then just in very, very infantile forms, more like a zygote. Let's see, what else did I want to get at? The add-ons, the 32X, so blah. But, it seems like we're both missing each other here. My main biggest points were that the 16-bit gen was better. As far as games, you had a wide range. I mean, there were, God, I don't know, well over, 1,500, 16, 1,700 Super NES games. I don't know the exact numbers personally. I don't really care. But there were as many games around. You even had Doom on there. It was a shitty version of it. It did its job, but it wasn't that great. But games, once again, I'm talking day and date of release, were cheaper then. I hardly paid, with some exceptions, of course, I hardly paid anything more than, $50. You can call me a liar all you want or whatever. I personally don't care because I can remember these times. You weren't around then. And I don't mean that you weren't around like you weren't alive during the era, but, you didn't go to places that I shop, you didn't get those things or whatever. So, yeah, and, when you factor in new games now, they're $60 off the bat. I'm talking brand new big games. I'm not talking little indie games or whatever. Which, by the way, a lot of smaller games on Xbox Live, Nintendo Virtual Console, and so on, especially with Nintendo, if you knock out all of their older games, even on the Xbox and the PS and the PlayStation, you got old versions of Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix or whatever. If you knock out those older games, then that library of games drops significantly. Well, maybe not significantly, but it takes out, a nice chunk, a nice percentage. I wanted to keep this short, but apparently that's not going to happen because I'm rambling. I tend to ramble whenever I respond to a video without fully thinking it through. I bet. Now, people like me, as you were, we're not trying to pull attention to the fact that you're young, but you do act like you're young, especially when you make comments like, well, you can't tell me that if you were 13 or 14, somebody gave you a 360 or a Super Nintendo, you would pick a Super Nintendo. And if you did say you picked a Super Nintendo, then that just shows, rose-colored glass nostalgia. You can't do that. First of all, fucking kids are stupid. From the age of when they can talk through, the early 20s, no offense to you. Well, let's just say, 17, 18, they're fucking retarded. They're going to go by whatever they think is the best and best looking. So, that's like I had the hardest time getting my nephew, who's 13 now, to play Final Fantasy VI because the fact it was sprite-based and was old. He thought it sucked just because of the age. But really, the only thing that's incrementally, or not incrementally, but has increased a lot is graphics. And at that age, if you were to show it to me and I knew nothing about gaming and I only cared about what looked the best, of course I'd pick the 360 over the Super Nintendo. But that doesn't mean the Super Nintendo's worse. That's just, a bad, don't want to say analogy. What's wrong? That's just a bad example to go with. That's like saying, if you put a VHS copy of Star Wars versus a Blu-ray, whichever Star Wars you're looking at, which one would you take? Of course, a Blu-ray is going to look superior because it's better technology, or not necessarily better technology. Well, okay, better technology. Video gaming, as far as technology, hasn't really changed a lot because you're still playing as a character, you're still jumping, smashing, shooting things, or whatever. But point being, though, I'm not looking at this from a nostalgia standpoint, and that's probably the biggest thing that you're being fucking stupid about on your videos is you're basically saying anybody who thinks that anything older than this gen is better is being nostalgic, and I'm right, you're wrong. And I know that's how you are, but for the viewers out there should know, that's just a stupid stance to go with. It's basically saying, well, that's the way it is, that's the truth. It's not in my opinion, it's the truth. If you don't agree with that, then, fuck you don't know what you're talking about. And, it's shit like that people bring up your age a lot. And, like, so you're like, what, 20, give or take? And, like, so that's really not that young. It's young. I'm not saying I'm old enough to be your dad. At best, I'm old enough to be your older brother. So, yeah, to go and close this off, I'll probably take another video for you to respond. Overall games, once again, date and date of release. I'm talking big type games like your Zeldas, your Sonics, your Marios, your Call of Duties, your Mass Effects, your Final Fantasies, and so on. I'm talking day one. Day one. Not, well, it's cheaper, when the Game of the Year edition comes out, plus with all the other downloadable content and so on. But downloadable content, for the most part, it's a good thing, but it does have the propensity, if you will. I don't even know if that's the right word. I'm tired. I had a long-ass work day before I came home. But it does have the possibility of costing you a shitload more to get the extra content. Yeah, it's extra content, but whatever. You take a game like Call of Duty that has a 5-hour campaign, you pay $60 for. You pay for extra maps, not really extra content. Whereas you take a game like Final Fantasy VI, and I know I keep on using that a lot, my bad. Once again, I'm tired. Like I said, I only remember paying about $50, $55 for the game brand new, and you had 20, 30, 40 hours of content. Of course, like I said, graphically wise, it's going to look better. If I was 13 and you said Super Nintendo or 360, if I was your typical retarded teenager, of course I would take the 360. There's no question about that. However, though, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. Just because it's the newest and prettiest thing doesn't mean it's going to be the best. As far as next gen, we'll see what happens, but there are a couple things that are worrisome, especially with the large amount of stuff being done online. Maybe I'm just being a little skeptical, but we'll see. In conclusion, once again, dude, I'm not hating on you personally. Just some of the shit you say is retarded, and I still say that the 16-bit generation was the best ever. The only reason why it may not have gotten to heights or seemed to get to heights that this gen did is because of the internet, because of gaming websites and so on. People couldn't bitch. And actually, and plus two, games were still seeing made for kids at the time. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying it's a fact. You can have your own opinion, but you see, unlike you in saying that, well, your opinion's wrong because you're saying something that's older is better and it's nostalgia. I'm saying you got your opinion, you're welcome to it. I'm not saying my opinion's correct, but for a lot of people out there, 16-bit era is better than the current, better than any other generation since or even before. And, I even take in the Atari account to this and Magnavox Odyssey. Now, I wasn't alive when they came out, but I played them before the original NES. Once again, dude, and I know I keep saying this, but, as long as you keep on making stupid statements and, you pull that example of 13-year-old Super Nintendo or 360, and the fact that you come across and say basically, well, what I say is correct, and if you don't agree with it, then you're wrong. Even though it's an opinion, you make it sound like it's fact. That's the reason why people keep on bringing up your age. And like I said, I'm not that much older than you. So, yeah, I'm just going to go and leave it at that. 16-bit is still the best. And once again, that I said in my last video too, and in my comments, I'm not hating on this gen. It has its problems. Every generation does. This is definitely probably one of the top 3 generations that's been around. I've got no problems with this generation, even though pretty soon it's going to be called last gen. But so apparently you didn't hear that part, or if you did, you chose to ignore it or didn't choose to acknowledge it. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the 16-bit was better. So yeah, and once again, as far as the race thing, I'm not saying that being white was better. Just let you know where I was coming from because you said you were a poor Mexican. You brought it up first, so I brought it in. But of course, some people that are going to be watching this, of course, because I am the white, I did grow up in an upper middle class family, and I did have all of these things, even though a lot of shit I paid for by myself because my parents instilled a work ethic into me, saying that you need to earn the things you get. You'll appreciate that much more. Of course, some people are going to see me as being the bad white guy, because of course we can't talk about race or whatever without seeming like we're the devil. It seems like everybody looks at it that way. Yeah, anything we say against any other race or whatever, or even if we hint and say that that whites are better than anybody else, we're looked at as being, hate mongers and Nazis and all that other stuff. Although, funny thing is, I am of German descent. I do speak a little bit of German, and yeah, so already people are probably going to call me Nazi. I really don't fucking care. So respond back if you like. I'll probably respond again to you as well. This has already gone on too long. Actually, I got to go make dinner now. So yeah, just calm down, bro. Realize that somebody can have a differing opinion from you, and it's not because of nostalgia. And yeah, sorry your teen years sucked. Sorry you had so much angst. And I'm sorry you grew up as a poor Mexican. Not my problem. Not my fault either. So don't pass that off on me. And other people watching this, if you agree with me, let me know. Later.